And speaking of community, how do you feel the recent events going on in our country have affected your community?
I think that the recent events, when you're talking about police brutality and police murdering young black men within the street, is becoming a horrible problem that we really need to deal with within America. I think that since 2000, not that I think, but I know that since 2000 and from 2000 to 2016, more than 7,000 young black men have been killed due to police brutality and police murder. And I believe that police murdering young black men within the streets, and I really believe that as a people, we really need to do something about it.
And speaking of community, how do you feel the recent events going on in our country are affecting yours?
For me personally, it's heartbreaking and it's saddening. It bothers me. It makes me very angry. For my community, it's the same. It's saddening. It depends on who you're talking about in my community, though, because I know particularly for the black demographic or the African American demographic, we're hurt. I can't speak for other demographics. I know that we're hurt, and it's been happening to young black men for the last 16 years, well, over 16 years, but I mean consistently. Like if we want to look at the numbers, from 2000 to 2016, over 7,000 young black men have been killed in the streets, and we consistently continue to keep getting killed. Kinda what it reminds me of is it's funny though, because a couple of weeks ago I was watching Jesse Williams. He did this beautiful speech on BET, and it inspired so many people. But you notice once we start coming together and we start organizing, and activists and actors start speaking up, that randomly we still continue to get killed and gunned down in the street. And what it kind of reminds me of is the time of Jim Crow, actually. And in Jim Crow, within the era, particularly within the 50s and the 60s, like right when we was on the precipice of change, you notice that a lot of lynchings started to happen. So a lot of black people would get killed, a lot of police activity would happen, a lot of people would get shot. There would be a lot of horrific things that happen within the community. But then throughout the day, there would be boycotts, there would be marches, there would be people organizing to fight for change. So it kinda, in 2016, reminds me of like 1950, that while we're on the precipice of change and bringing people together, that the oppressor and the powers that be that affect the world in a negative way are trying to scare us and put us in a system or in a society where we live in fear. You know this because, it's not my opinion, it's fact that within the last, maybe 100 years, they've killed off maybe 90% of our leaders, and then the other 10%, you probably say to yourself, I have a family, or I have a livelihood to maintain, or I want to leave a name or leave something for my family, and I don't necessarily want to die on the front line. But that kind of puts us in a position where we're kind of boxed in. So if you have a whole demographic or a whole generation of people that's not willing to fight and stand up, then I don't know how it's ever going to get better. Because the last generation, they gave everything. They gave their lives, they gave their livelihood, they gave their families, but in hopes to create a better world for us. Now, this generation is more so they're thinking about the consequences of change rather than actually implementing the change. And that might be our greatest downfall. But to go back to the question, I think that we have to remember that no matter what happens, because I'm quite sure that as I'm doing this right now, that within the next, I pray that this doesn't happen, but that we would be talking about this again, that there would be more incidents with the police and more incidents with communities trying to understand why the police are killing us and handling people of color particularly the way they are. Because when you're talking about the white demographic, they don't handle white people like that. And I'm not trying to be racist, I'm not trying to make a race war, but we're just talking about facts here. When white people have guns, when white people are disorderly, when white people cause havoc within their community, for some strange reason, the police departments in all of the United States have a way of detaining them, calming them down, and arresting them without them losing their lives. But when you're dealing with people of color, for some strange reason, these police officers just feel like kill first and ask questions later. And I think that is gonna really have to stop, or there's not gonna be any order within this country.
As a black male, how do you feel that the relationships that you have with other black males in your demographic can be strengthened, and why?
Excuse me. As a black male, how do I feel that I can strengthen the relationships with other black males? Um, Me personally, I think that it starts with it's taking away the judgment of other black males and kind of giving an open or blank canvas perspective of getting to know each other. It starts with understanding that we're all brothers, no matter our nationalities or ethnicities. It doesn't matter where you come from. We're all brothers. So since we're all brothers, that means that we have to represent each other as so. Just like you treat your brother in your household, you have to be there for your brother. You have to support your brother. You have to fight for your brother. You have to stand up for your brother. And I think that if we do that, then that relationship will strengthen. And I also think that we have to veer off from the media and social media, because I think that's it's a perpetrator for negative perspectives of how black men view black men, and it doesn't necessarily always add up, because I know a lot of black men within my community that I'm cool with, that I work along with, that I do community organizing with, the community service with, that I went to school with, and I think that the unity that we do have is not shown as much. So there's a lot of different.
As someone we would consider enlightened or who love life, how do you deal with those who don't?
I mean, once you get into the spiritual realm, you gotta understand that everybody got their own particular journey. So I can't prejudge you or judge you based on what you know or what you don't know, because I can't allow anybody to do that to me. So when I'm dealing with men and women that don't necessarily know what I know or don't see things the way I see them, that's the whole perspective of life, is being different, is valuing a different perspective and a different vantage point. So I don't look down at people that don't look at life or value life or have the same consciousness as me. I would suggest, or I probably would advise that together we higher our frequency and change our way of thinking and come together. So through that perspective, I try to use my social work ideology in understanding the behaviors of a person, and understanding the makeup of a person, and understanding what that person went through, what type of support system that person have. When you add that all into the pot, then you have a better feel for how to deal with that person.
What do you feel we can do to stop the issue of police brutality?
Okay, I think that first, we're gonna need numbers. So, the whole perspective of, like, let's say ethnicity, like, oh, I'm Jamaican, or I'm Haitian, or I'm Panamanian, or I'm African American. Like, we all under the same umbrella. Like, if you African American, it doesn't matter what your nationality or ethnicity is, we all under the same umbrella. And when they kill us in the street, they're not looking at the ethnicity before they shoot us dead. So we have to get that unity perspective, like that oneness perspective in numbers. Like, so if it's 48 million black people within the United States of America, then we all have to stick together. It doesn't matter of the class we're in, it doesn't matter our nationality or ethnicity, it matters that we have a common goal. That is to stop them from killing us in the street, that is to end poverty and oppression, that is to build a lifestyle that makes us more successful. So we have to get to it. What we also can do is that we have to stop spending money with the oppressor. So look at it like this, right? I like that you have the Black Lives Matter movement. You have young black people all over the United States of America protesting and going out, and thousands of us, we be working. But guess what? Like, that is gonna go unheard to the oppressor, because it's not hitting their pockets. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to remember the blueprint that was set for us by the great Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement and the Freedom Riders. And you cannot protest without boycotting. And boycotting means you have to hit them where it hurts. That means we might have to stop riding the train. That means we might have to stop riding the bus. That means we have to stop shopping at Target. That means there's no more Black Friday. That means that you have to start spending your money only on or to the people that is progressively helping the community get better. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a black establishment, but it has to be an establishment that's collectively working toward changing and fixing some of the problems that we're dealing with. Another thing is that we have to, all demographics have to start speaking up. I mean, not just black people, white people as well. I mean, like, white people have to understand that a lot of these problems come from a system of white supremacy. And although they may feel that they're not connected with that system, they still benefit from that system. And in order to abolish that system, we can't just change that system with just people of color. White people have to make a collective effort to work with people of color to end the system of oppression, racism, and classism.